Wow, what a wonderful breath of fresh air. La La Land is a romantic musical comedy drama and the second feature film from the acclaimed director of Whiplash. Directed by Damien Chazelle, the film stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone in the two lead roles. Now, I am a really big fan of musicals. I mean, I grew up on a lot of musicals, a lot of the films that I grew up watching as a kid, and are sort of very nostalgic for me now. A lot of them are musicals. I just love musicals when they're done well. We don't really get that many good modern musicals like now. They're not really that popular anymore, which is a shame, but every now and then we do get a really good musical. I mean, Les Mis came out back in 2012, 2013 time, and I absolutely loved Les Miserables. That was one of my best films of the year in which that came out. But again, that was more of just an adaptation of a stage show. We don't really get that many original musicals anymore. But La La Land from director Damien Chazelle, who directed Whiplash. I absolutely loved Whiplash. That was one of my favourite films of 2014. I thought that was so great. So as soon as I heard he was doing this film and I saw the trailers, it was this throwback to the classic Hollywood musicals of the 50s. Got Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to see this. This looks amazing. And for me, La La Land is just one of the best films of the year so far. I was worried it wasn't going to meet my expectations, but it met that high bar. For me, this was just as good, maybe even better than I was hoping it would be. I enjoyed it so much, and it was just such a great experience watching this film. Before I get into my review of the film, I'll say first of all that what I loved about this film so much was that it made me smile. And it's just rare nowadays that you can watch a film that comes out in this day and age that just makes you happy and just puts a smile on your face. So many films that come out nowadays are so just dreary and depressing, or so dull and boring, or just got no life or spirit or energy to them, and they're just no fun to watch at all. But La La Land was not only such a great film from a technical point of view, but I just enjoyed it so much. I was smiling from ear to ear, from beginning to end. It just made me so happy, and it just reinvigorated me, re-energized me, and it just reminded me why I love cinema and how great films can be. And it was great because it was quite melancholy, and that it made you thinking, oh, I wish films were still made like this nowadays. But it was like, oh, they are. This film has come out now, and it's just so great because we don't get many films like this nowadays. But the fact that we got La La Land now, and Damien Chazelle made this film and gave this film to us, it was just such a nice treat. And it's just such a rare gem of a film, and I just loved it so much. One of the things I liked so much about this film, that it was almost like a throwback to the classic Hollywood musicals of the 50s. It was nostalgic and loving to the past. It was like a love letter to classic Hollywood musicals from back in the day. But at the same time, it had a contemporary twist in that it was set in the modern day, and it felt very real and true to real life. And I loved that because I didn't know going in that it was set in the modern day. I thought it was set like back in the 50s or something. And although I loved how it was like a throwback to the classic Hollywood musicals of the 50s, and it was done in very much that kind of style, it was also great that it had this contemporary twist. It was set in the modern day, and like I said, the relationship between the two characters, it wasn't old-fashioned and cliche and cheesy or corny or anything like that. It felt very real and naturalistic and true to what relationships are like in real life. And it was just so great because it was this really fun, magical musical, but it had this relationship, and the story felt very real and true to life, and I just loved that, and it works so incredibly well. And another thing I have to mention is the humour. I was really surprised about how much comedy was in this film, and I was really pleasantly surprised by that because I didn't think it was going to be ultra serious and dramatic or anything, but I was worried that it might take itself a little too seriously. But I was so pleasantly surprised by how much comedy was in this film, and it really worked so incredibly well because it's one of the things that made this film so good, because it could have been a little cliche, it could have been a little cheesy in parts, but the way they implemented the comedy in there, it was visual comedy or just comedic moments between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, it just works so well at diffusing any potential cliche or cheesy moments, because every time you thought that it was building up to something that could be kind of cliche, they implemented comedy in there, and it works so well. It made it kind of more relatable in the way, because you could relate to the characters and the humour and the situation and what they were going through, and it just, again, that was another thing that kind of gave it that kind of contemporary edge. Like, it was this great kind of classic Hollywood musical romance kind of film, but it had the comedy in there and these kind of these comedic moments that kind of gave it this edge and saved it from being like a potentially cliche, cheesy film, which it wasn't at all. It completely avoided that, and it was just so cleverly done, and I loved it so much. And of course, I have to mention the direction by Damien Chazelle. Damien Chazelle really impressed me with Whiplash, his first feature film, and ever since then, as soon as I heard he was going to be doing this film, I was like, oh my god, I'm seeing this. It didn't matter what the film was going to be, I was going to see it, but I was really intrigued by the concept of this film as well, and he did such a great job. Like, Whiplash was definitely not a fluke, it was definitely not a one-off, because oh my god, this was just as good, maybe even better than Whiplash. I mean, they're hard to compare. I mean, they are quite different, but they're strangely enough, there's kind of some similarities there. They both kind of tell a story about passion for like their craft and their art and the music and what they want to do. And then there's kind of influences of jazz in there as well that kind of harken it back to Whiplash in a sense. You know, Ryan Gosling's character, he like plays the piano, he's like a jazz musician, and they're both kind of desperate to fulfill their dreams. It tells a story of love, passion, dreams and desires, and about these two kindred spirits who are kind of destined to be together but can only fulfill their dreams apart from one another. So it was kind of like uplifting yet kind of heartbreaking at the same time, and it was just so great. Like Whiplash, he really infused this film with a sense of passion and enthusiasm and energy, and you could tell the person behind this film really cared about this and was really passionate about this, and that really came through, because apparently this is the film that he wanted to do first, but he couldn't do this film first because it was too big. But after Whiplash and the critical and commercial acclaim he got with that film, he was able then to go on to something bigger like this, and it was so worth it. I'm so glad he got round to being able to do this film, because it's potentially a big risk. I mean, if you've heard about kind of a musical coming out, a throwback to the classic Hollywood musicals, a big sweeping Hollywood musical romance, you're like, that's not going to get made nowadays. What are you thinking? That's crazy. But Damien Chazelle really just brought it with this film, and I'm so glad he made this film, and it was as good as it was, because he did such a great job. And yeah, I couldn't be more impressed. And also, I have to mention the lighting and colouring in this film. It really impressed me. Just the bright, rich, vibrant colours of bright pinks, yellows, oranges and reds. It was just gorgeous to behold this film, just beautiful to look at. I also really liked how the lighting kind of implemented the effects of a stage show. It's almost like watching a theatrical kind of stage production just brought to life on the big screen. How the lighting kind of, sometimes it focused on a particular character, and then the lighting would dim around them and just focus on that particular person. So it was almost like watching a stage show in terms of how it was lit and the effects that it would implement here and there, and it just made it all the more immersive and engaging to watch, and I just absolutely loved it. It really sucked me into the world of the film. I felt like I was a part of it, and I was there experiencing this, and I just love that. Also, I cannot do this review without mentioning the cinematography. This is a new cinematography that Damien Chazelle was working with here, but oh my god, this film was stunningly shot. It was just striking and beautiful to behold. Just long, fluid camera movements that were just really immersive and engaging, really pulled you into the world of the film. And it was similar to Whiplash in a way, but whereas Whiplash was quite fast and quick cutting to the music, and this did do that, but there was a lot of long, fluid camera movements as well. It was almost like an Inarritu film or something, but it was like the Revenant of musicals or something. There were so many great, long, fluid, tracking camera shots that were just incredible. It just made me sit back and think, how the hell did they get some of these shots? I've got to mention the opening scene. The opening scene in this film was just amazing. It just really kicks off with a bang, and just how the film opens with this amazing singing and dancing number with just hundreds of people on the highway around these cars. It's just absolutely incredible, and it's in one long, continuous single take, and it's just absolutely incredible. Like, how the hell did they do that? It was so good. The whole kind of audience just erupted into applause after that opening scene. It was just incredible. It was so good. Again, I just have to emphasise, this film was just masterfully shot. It just has to be up there for a chance of winning Best Cinematography at the Oscars. It just has to. To put it into perspective, this film, which really was just a masterpiece in visual storytelling. I mean, there was great dialogue between the characters, and the songs were great, of course, as well. I just loved the music, but it was such a well done film in terms of how the story was put across visually. Like, you could watch this film on mute, just without any dialogue, and it would still work just as well. You know, you could still enjoy it and watch it and understand that's how good this film was. You know, it could have almost been like a silent film, and you would have still been able to have got that story across, and just how the film told the story visually, it was just so well done. It was just Absolutely incredible. The editing as well, I have to mention. It's not often that I mention something such as the editing, because usually the editing is quite kind of an invisible thing. You're not really meant to notice it. But with the editing in this film, it was just so well cut together. How the visuals were cut together to the music. It was again similar to Whiplash, and how it was cut together, how the visuals and the music were cut together in that kind of way. It was just so fluid and rhythmic, and the visuals and the music were just married together so harmoniously. It was just perfect. And of course, I've got to mention the music, just the songs, the dances, the musical numbers. They were just fantastic. This film really got me involved and engaged, and I felt so immersed into the film whenever these singing and dancing numbers kicked off. It was just so great, because there's great original songs in there. There was some contemporary music, but it was mostly original music. It was just so joyous and entertaining to watch, just charming and wonderful, immersive and encompassing. Like, you really got involved with it and felt like you were a part of it, and I just loved all the musical numbers. Some of my favourites, I'm going to say, were particular highlights. Ryan Gosling had his solo, The City of Stars. I love that. That kind of recurs a few times throughout the film. And Emma Stone's solo, she does at her audition. And there's also a song and dance number with the two of them as well on the street, and that's really good. And there's just so many great musical numbers throughout this film. And I can't go throughout this review without mentioning performances. Of course, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone delivered fantastic performances. They're both great actors, but both great singers and dancers and just everything as well. But two great triple threat performances, acting, singing, dancing. They really brought their A game, and they really delivered, and it worked, and it paid off big time. And the chemistry between the two of them, I think this is their third film they've done together. I think they did a couple of other films together. Crazy Stupid Love and Gangster Squad, if I remember correctly. But I don't think they had big leading parts in those two films. They weren't like the main two, whereas in this film they were the two main leads together, and the chemistry was great between the two of them, and it felt real and natural. It didn't feel staged. The whole kind of relationship and the story didn't feel staged and scripted. It felt real and natural and believable, and it just works so well. You really believe their characters and buy into the relationship between the two of them. So I'm not a big fan of romance films. Like, there's some romance films that I really like, but this film did such a good job because it made it relatable, it made it feel real and natural. It was funny, it was relatable, and it got emotional in parts. I was nearly tearing up towards the end, and I just loved it. It was like, it really felt like this could be like a timeless love story. Surely this is going to have a universal appeal. I mean, anyone can relate to this. Anybody can relate to these characters, this relationship, this story. I think it's going to like connect to a load of people in like a universal appeal. It has to. It was just that good. Overall, La La Land is quite simply one of the best films I've seen so far this year. An extraordinary theatrical experience and a remarkable technical triumph for the film. With two incredible lead performances, a plethora of stunning visuals, and a spellbinding story at its heart, La La Land is a rare gem of a film that stands out from the crowd and shines as something truly special. La La Land, it has to get 5 stars. I don't want this to sound like I'm overblowing the film or over-exaggerating or kind of over-hyping it, but when I watched this film at the London Film Festival, I know it was the London Film Festival, it's quite a passionate, enthusiastic crowd, but when that film came to an end and the crowd erupted into applause, standing ovation, I just felt something I'd never felt before watching any other film, and it just really felt like I just witnessed a modern masterpiece. I know it's kind of too early to say, it's not just come out, I've just seen it, but it felt like this is a film that is just destined to become a timeless classic. It was that good. Honestly, when La La Land comes out, you've got to check it out, because for me, it's one of the best, if not the best film I've seen so far this year. I really cannot stress enough how much I absolutely love this film. And there we go, that wraps up my review of La La Land. Have you seen the film yet? Probably not, but when you get around to seeing the film, or what are you expecting from this film? Are you excited to see this film or not? Let me know down below, I'd love to know. And as always, if you like this, make sure to click subscribe to see more, but for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.